Hello and welcome to the last episode in the first season of First Impressions, a video series where I give my first impressions when visiting a website based on my 23 years experience as a user experience designer. My name is Paul Boag and this season has been quite a roller coaster. We've looked at a lot of different websites and explored a lot of different challenges that website owners regularly have. Each of the websites that we've looked at in this series has been provided by the wonderful people at Balsamiq, who have basically enabled this show to happen. But in this very last video, we're going to look at a website which is schoolonwheels.org, which is a charity website. I haven't really looked at it properly. I've just loaded it up in a browser. So should we dive in? Let's go. Okay, so this is what we get when we load the page. So, I mean, from the name, we can guess that it's related to education, and the picture reinforces that. We've got some very strong calls to action with quite a lot of repetition going on. We've got volunteer here, donate here, volunteer here, volunteer here. So there is a lot happening. It looks like we've also got a bit of a problem here where the navigation for the carousel is under the apply now button, which is not exactly ideal. And actually that does flag the first thing to talk about really, which is carousels. Carousels have got a bad reputation in the user experience design community, and for good reason, that they basically hide a lot of content away from people. So if I click on one of these others, yeah, look at all this other additional content that is kind of available but kind of not. Now, I suspect if I left this page running for long enough that this will move through from one carousel item to another. But even so, you're still relying on someone to sit there and wait for it to progress or to spot those buttons that have now disappeared, if you notice, right? So if you've got crucial information, a carousel is not your best bet in most situations. Now, that's not to say that they're never good. You can never say anything black and white like that, but generally speaking, they're not ideal. So anyway, that said, let's have a look. Okay, so very much front and center, as soon as I arrive on the site, it's asking me to donate and to volunteer. But I don't know anything about these guys yet. Again, and I've said this multiple times through the season, and I'm never going to stop saying it, which is you need to pick your moment. Right? I need to understand what these guys do first. I've got to understand what the need is that they're solving before I'm in a position to donate or volunteer. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a donate and volunteer for return users, but for me, as a user arriving on the site for the first time, I feel like all they want to do is just grab my money, right? They don't even want to explain it. So it sets up the wrong tone. So you either need to adapt the website based on whether someone's returning or not, or make sure you get that kind of core messaging right at the very top of what they do, right? Now, it actually does give students without a home the gift of time and ongoing steady support, not just today, but around the year. That is actually doing it. It is telling me what they do, but because it's kind of wrapped up in this kind of give, donate. It's got the wrong tone to it, and it's bristling me slightly. Okay, let's have a look down. What do we do? Here we go. Schools on Wheels provides academic tutors to children living in shelters, motels, cars, foster homes on the streets of Southern California. Okay, so that is going to throw up quite a lot of questions for me or for anybody at this point, right? Questions like, well, don't these kids go to school? Questions like, how is this helpful? Is there really a need for it? So it's making a lot of assumptions about my level of knowledge, which might not actually be accurate. So we'll come back and we'll dive into that more in a minute. And then immediately now we're back to the ask. We need people like you. We need you to volunteer. We need you to donate. And then we get into upcoming events and recent news. Does anyone actually read news on websites like this? Is that really the best place to communicate? I give to various charities and support various charities, as most people do. And I never, ever go to their website to read their latest news. Just don't do it. I'll get emails from them every now and again, keeping me up to date and informed, but I don't go to their website. Yet so many websites put recent news on their homepage, right? I see web design agencies doing this as well. When do you think to yourself, oh, I wonder what so-and-so web design agency is doing? And actually, I encourage you to look at the stats for your recent news on your website. I bet you that actually those stats are pretty low, that very few people click through. So maybe this space, or not necessarily this position in the scroll, but this real estate could be used to unpack a little bit more what these people do, why this offering is required, etc. Do you remember I've talked about this before on this season? Number one is you need to establish, am I on the right site? What is this site about? Secondly, we need to identify the features or benefits of the product. So in this case, the features and benefits of offering academics tutoring. Then you go in for the ask after that. Okay, join our community. Find out more. Okay, so this is basically just a mailing list, but actually, I quite like that. I think that's quite a nice way of putting it. To get people to sign up for our mailing list, we refer to it as becoming a part of a community. The photograph really reinforces that as well. For a charity, I think that works very well. So I like that idea of, join our mailing list, become part of our community, become a part of this group of people that are making a difference. And then finally, there's, I need something for those that need a tutor and for those who are active tutors to, get resources, etc. Well, that's fair enough. Okay, fair enough. I don't feel like I have a handle on why I want to support this charity yet. So I'm going to persevere a little bit, which your average user may well not. And I'm going to go into what we do. Okay, so we've got a truncated timeline here that just seems to get cut off. Is it okay, so I can go through the timeline of the organization. Okay, two issues here, right? Issue number one, from a design and usability point of view, that was not very intuitive, right? We're used to scrolling vertically, not horizontally. Oh, and that's weird. I've just started to try and scroll with my mouse vertically, and it now is not letting me. It's scrolling in that frame instead. So be very careful when you break people's break conventions of how the web works. So if you do things like scroll in a different direction, maybe you break the back button for whatever reason, bookmarking doesn't work, all of those kinds of things. You're breaking the fundamental nature of how the web works, and that is very confusing to people. All right, so beware of that. So that's point one about this. Point two, I'm not convinced anybody cares, right? There is a lot of information here, okay, and it's presented attractively enough, but do I really care what School on Wheels did in December of 2012? Where's the use scenario? Why is it that people want to use that information, and how does it actually actively encourage me to get involved? Okay, so they've got, today, hundreds of volunteers work one-to-one with children. Well, I've worked that bit out already. Right, what do? Offer one-to-one tutors, school supplies, assistance in entering school. So, okay, so this is in addition to normal school. Help to locate lost records, scholarships, guidance to parents. That is really good. That is a really good list. tangible things that the charity does, and that should be front and center on the homepage, not buried. And so often we do that on websites. In journalism, it's called burying the lead. It's taking something, the real message of a story, and burying it halfway through the article, rather than having it up front and center right in your face. They have a video here. Let's have a look at this video. I like videos.
The hardest part of life for me right now is finding a place to live.
Homeless families are the fastest growing segment of the homeless population. In just the school districts we serve in Southern California, there are over 163,000 children without a home. The children we serve...
163,000. Wow. That was a very powerful start to that video. We'll keep going in a minute. But it did two things that is really important to notice. There are different people respond to things in different ways, right? You have some people that respond to hard numbers. 163,000. Wow. But there are other people who respond to emotion, right? And empathy and connection, which is that little boy at the beginning, you know, with that kind of sigh in his, you know, in the way he was speaking of going, the biggest challenge in my life at the moment is finding a place to live. And he was talking, and the way he said it, like it was his problem, that a child of that age shouldn't be dealing with that kind of thing. But the most of us are kind of somewhere in the middle. You know, that's what made that so powerful. You had this one human, real experience that was, you know, really resonated with you, coupled then with some statistics and numbers to show the scale of the problem. So let's watch a little bit more.
Live in shelters, motels, in cars, even on the streets. And their average age is 8 years old.
Well, my mom was looking for houses for us. She didn't have enough time to stop what she was doing to help us with our homework.
When the road gets dark.
School on Wheels is the only organization in Southern California that focuses exclusively on the education of homeless children. We're funded by private donations from individuals, foundations, and corporations. This year, our volunteers will spend some 90,000 hours tutoring over 3,000 students.
1 hour a week doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is, and it's a progress that you see.
And I've definitely seen over the last year a great improvement in his writing ability, his speaking ability.
With this program, it actually helps us, you know, catch up with their work and even more so be advanced towards the classes.
Okay, so they followed up that kind of emotional impact with this call to action of either donate or volunteer. But there's some useful information in both of those. One is that they've made it very clear donation can be corporate or it can be individuals, and that they're totally reliant upon that. Those are two really important things to get across. But with the volunteering, they said 1 hour a week can make such a difference, right? So they quantified the level of commitment. You know what? I can't help but think that this is buried and that this needs to be front and center on the homepage, because it's really well done. Oh, I've just jumped back, haven't I? That's annoying. Let's jump forward a bit. We got past that. Right, let's try here.
No, in my heart, I can never go back to the way that we were on that runaway track.
Having the tutors in place allowed to create an enormous amount of structure and stability. They helped us so much keep the children on track with their studies.
So now we're talking about benefits.
And struggling prior to that.
I've benefited a lot from having good mentorship in my life, and it's something that I feel like I should pay back.
But it all comes down to you.
If you're considering being a tutor, do it, because it changed my life dramatically. I do encourage everybody and anybody to do it, regardless of your age.
The tutoring, I think, would be very valuable for anybody who is interested in helping children. If you just have the feeling for the children, that's the important thing.
There was one thing to notice. The lady that said it's made such a difference to her, right, as a tutor. And that's another big thing when it comes to charities, right? And I think it applies in other situations as well. You always have to appeal to the selfish gene, what it is that somebody inherently gets themselves from doing it. And that includes when they're giving charitably, right? That it gives a feeling of giving back, etc., etc. I'm not going to watch any more of this video for now. It's maybe a little bit longer than it should be, but it's got some really valuable content in there. But the reason I want to stop is I really want to have time in this video. I'm just to look at more. Again, look, they're unpacking some of this stuff about homelessness. They're giving some facts, giving some benefits that it provides to people. And then, yeah, we're getting into this. This kind of stuff doesn't matter so much. But look, look, then they've got some testimonials of how it's making a difference. And all of that, this is really good content that's buried in an About Us section. And it's not even really about us. It's not about the organization. It's about what the organization does and how it's changing lives. And that needs to be all floated up. That needs to be front and center. They need to step back from the talking about donation and volunteers so quickly, but instead unpack some of that information. But let's have a look at the donation process, and that's what I wanted to get into. Okay. All right, so it's a fairly standard donation process. Whoa, although I've just seen that the giving starts at $100, which is quite a big initial gift, right? And it's not that this is something that would kind of that a lot of charities do, is they start their giving quite high in order to frame people's expectations. But sometimes if you place it too high, which I think that probably is, it makes people think, oh, well, my little gift is not worth giving, right? So actually, I would set that much lower, at say $20, okay, in order to get people giving. Because what happens is we have what's called a commitment bias, where one action builds upon another. That if we can get people to take a little step, then we can escalate them to a bigger step. So a great example of that, if you take something like a donation, getting involved with the charity, you know, your first ask will be very simple, which is just raise awareness, just tell other people about this problem, share it on social media, etc. The next one from that, once you've got them doing that, then you escalate a bit and say, sign up for our newsletter to know what's going on, to be aware of the issue. Then you ask people to make a single donation, okay, which is a bit more of a commitment, but only $20, right? Then you ask them to make a monthly donation, but only $2 a month, just to start committing them to it. And then you can go back to them and ask them to raise that monthly donation. And that from there, you can ask them to fundraise maybe. And then from there to give a legacy. Do you see how it can kind of escalate and you draw people in over a period of time? So think about that with your calls to action, really on any site, even if it's not a charity site, about how one call to action can build upon another. Okay, so yes, we maybe need a smaller amount here. The other thing that is useful to do is quantify what the call to action provides. So if I give $100, what's that going to pay for, right? What's it going to enable to happen? Does it enable kids to have school supplies? If so, how many kids for $100, right? So that kind of thing makes a big difference as well. You've kind of done that a little bit with the frequency. Reoccurring donations are the best way to give steady support. That they're trying to explain the benefits of monthly donations there. It maybe isn't as good an explanation as it could be, because we kind of, the best way to word that would be something along the lines of, Reoccurring donations enable us to support children over the long term. So bring it back to the children there. They've obviously got different campaigns, but they've clearly marked that it's optional, and they've defaulted to the general fund, which is good. All the normal stuff you'd expect on a form. You've reassured people about privacy, dealt with any issues they might have. Great. And then we get into kind of corporate sponsorship and other forms of donations. Yeah, again, see, there's nothing, I'm not seeing anything on things like legacy here or fundraising. You know, it's all about donate or volunteer. But there are other ways to be actively involved, and I think they probably need to bring some of those more to the fore as well. So, yeah, pretty good generally, but I think there's more that could be done just to kind of emphasize some of the other ways to get people actively involved, to get them on that chain of engagement is what you're trying to do. You're trying to engage them and then escalate them. Okay, let's have a look at volunteers. Okay, so again, this is good. You know, it's about appealing to the selfish gene. You're not just talking about how it's good for the kids. Wow, these are going way too fast. There's no way I can keep up with them. So again, demonstrating the problem with carousels. But a lot of these are about the benefit it provides me as a tutor rather than the children, which is always good. Now, this is nice as well. I'm liking this, that we've got clear what's going to happen if you volunteer. Different ways you can volunteer. That's kind of good. Now, this is good, but maybe a bit buried here. This is what, you know, this is beginning to answer some of the questions that I've had of how much do I want to, you know, how much should I be volunteering, and what practically happens? You know, where am I going to go? Am I going to be safe? You know, how long do I need to give? All of those kinds of things. So maybe that needs to be a bit more highlighted than it currently is, because that could potentially be easy to miss. Okay, but generally the volunteering section, other than the carousel problems, is pretty strong actually. There's more work to be done from the donation side. All right. So I think, what are the kind of general lessons that we can learn from this website? Well, I think there's the pick your moment lesson of don't go in for the ass too soon. There's the don't bury the lead, right? So in this case, the lead is the set of, you know, what exactly it is that they're providing. And then also this amazing video. I think we're also learning a bit about psychology, that if you're trying to sell anything, you have to show what the benefit is to the person receiving the actual, or the person that's making the decision, right? So this also applies if you're in business where you're trying to sell enterprise level solutions, right? You don't talk about the benefits to the end user, you talk about the benefits to the person that actually is parting with the money. In this case, we talk about the benefits to the tutors as much as we talk about the benefits to the children as well. It's a sad state of affairs, but we are driven by selfish desires. Then the other thing was that balancing an emotional connection with people with some hard numbers, you know, about homelessness or whatever else. So there's lots that we can learn whether or not you're running a charity website. So there you go. That is schoolsonwheels.org. It looks like a very worthwhile charity. And I've got to say, I found the video in particular incredibly compelling. If you're looking for a charity to support, that looks like a really good one to me. And we've learned some valuable lessons from their website. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this season of the show. And maybe, just maybe, if you think it's worthwhile, and we might actually do it again. But for now, thanks for watching.